Hey, everybody, welcome back to the LYF podcast. Monica here, and today I am joined by this month's community feature. Her name is Morgyn Danae. She's currently based in California, and she found us and wanted to connect with Love Yourself Foundation. And I'm so thankful because, as we grow as an organization, our intention is definitely to broaden our scope and bring other folks together, whether they're in Las Vegas or in another country or another state. So, super excited to feature our first community feature that is not based in Vegas. But she's certainly offering a lot of online goodies, and we're going to get to know that a little bit more as we chat. Morgan is a dance and core specialist recovery coach.
Mhm.
So, we're going to be learning a lot about what that all encompasses. And so, yeah. Hi, Morgan. Thanks for
Hi,
being here.
Monica. Yeah, thanks so much for having me, and I'm honored to be here. Thank you
Yes,
for giving me this opportunity. Yeah.
of course. I feel like you have so much to teach, to offer, and I'm just excited for people to get to learn more about you. So, um, to start, my favorite go-to question is, what do you love about yourself, and how has that quality helped you so far in your life?
Okay. Well, I would say what I love about myself is the ability to find joy and pick myself up after falling, and use that to connect with others and support them as well.
Beautiful.
Comes from
Yes.
a joy, finding that joy for life.
And kind of like using that right as fuel to, like you said, to keep going.
Yeah, yeah.
I love that. So tell us now a little bit about, how did your story start? Like, what are some pivotal points that led you to specialize in what you offer now for the community?
Okay. Well, my story has definitely had many twists and turns. I am just shy of, well, getting closer, no, in a few months, turning 53. So lots of
What?
twists and
Really?
turns. Yeah,
I would not have said, they look so young.
I feel a little like a vampire or something. I've been through many incarnations, and so yeah, we definitely amass stories,
Mhm.
as we go through life, as we age, and deepen in that. So there've definitely been some different pivotal points, which decade. I definitely felt at a young age a calling to healing, to magic, to healing.
Mhm.
Um, and and one really big pivotal point in my life was in Arizona in my early 20s. I had been kind of in that place. This is definitely the story, heal or heal thyself, the wounded finding that, you know, reaching for that healing and learning through that as well. I was starting to break down in my late teens here and there physically, health issues. Um, we didn't use terms back then. That was in the 80s, the 90s, the 80s,
Mhm.
panic attacks or depression or anything like that. Widespread anyway, using those terms. But basically, you know, I knew that something wasn't right. But at the same time, I was into healthy living, and I was spiritual, just always kind of a spiritually oriented person. And in my early 20s, I really started to break down. My father was diagnosed with cancer, and I was very, very attached to him. And it was kind of like that pivotal point where I felt that I would die if he
Yeah.
died.
Uh-huh.
I was also, really unhealthy in relationship, in some ways in a partnership, and I can't blame anybody. Both ways dysfunction, and my body was was definitely going through more and more breakdown things, like severe low back pain, um, and I just basically was at that place of a certain awakening. that I cannot go on like this anymore. I am breaking down, And from that place, I was blessed to start working with a spiritual guide who started teaching me about self-love, you
Mm.
know.
Mhm.
And really, I was terrified to deal with my own story. I didn't even know I had, I did, there were so many places I hadn't looked, and I think that can be the case for so many of us when we start to really look at that, because it's the light and the dark, and there was a lot of love as well, but there was also dysfunction, which happens on this planet, right? We're all
Yeah.
born into that on some level. And so that's really was a pivotal turning point for me. Was I felt the calling to work with others, but I simply had to focus on myself because I wasn't going to make it, um, and so in that I started learning, and in that I started also um, learning how to more deeply take care of myself, in which case I was able to embody that better, with others. And that was also where I started kind of finding more clarity in what my passion was, what was going to come. And it's all been a very full kind of twists and turns to come full circle to this at this time, at this
Mhm.
age.
Mhm.
Um, but I felt this calling to doing spiritual healing and to teaching dance as a healing art, working with that, guiding others, using breath work and meditation as well, and working with the earth, working with nature, and teaching about self love. I was also studying belly massage, internal organ work. I was studying Chinese song, and the influence of Alison Post teaching me about unwinding the belly. So working with our emotional states, as well as, scar tissue and digestion, how all of these are so impacting of our mental health and our emotional health, as well as our physical health. So all of it kind of started to kind of come together in a vision. And I thought, I just felt, yes, I'm going to be doing this, working with the belly, working with dance and healing, spiritual healing. And so basically physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual healing in this kind of format. And really then that being clear that that was like working with the divine feminine.
Mhm.
So that was a really big turning point in my life. And then I continued to study and, work on myself, and have several falls in mental health with my own deeper layers of trauma. In some cases, things that I just had to work with. In some cases, things I didn't want to work with. So therefore I fell harder, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and from trauma and childhood abuse, some emotional abuse, sexual abuse, also again the gifts and the beauty, but also the injury, and there being some tendencies towards mental illness, as well as great creativity expression, which is often happens with artists and thinkers that think outside the box, and feelers. We can have those struggles with mental health. Um, and so I just continued that process, and as I continued in my work, um, healing myself, falling, getting back up as well, and working with people professionally in these areas, and continuing to build more professional skills, going into fitness and corrective exercise, and you know professional massage, body work, a lot of different areas, and then working with trauma, you know. Um, I just heard so many stories. I've just heard many, again, many years, but many stories and things that people were dealing with. I've worked with men and women. I do specialize a lot with women in working in with the body. I've worked with men a lot with massage, but things of, I'm shifting. And I think basically, with the dance, I feel that it's all still evolving, that it's gonna be I'm working a lot with women and just with women, but the men are going to be coming in again too. And I'm
Mhm.
finding ways how I can create that space, because sometimes we just need to be in all women's space to work with our bodies and work with that, you know. But there certainly is also that healing space when we all come together, absolutely essential
Mhm.
as well for those who, you know, feel that calling.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, and I think what kept marking what I was hearing in people's stories was not being heard, you know, not being acknowledged, having clear senses that things were off, perhaps in core dysfunctions or their mental health, or, you know, obviously societally, how we're treating each other, the different isms, you know, racism, sexism, ageism, ableism, homophobia, all these different things, and hearing people's stories, working with them, and just seeing that so much was bottoming out to, in the distress, people knowing something's not right and needing help or needing to be heard, and finding ways that I could build certain skills to address certain issues that I felt that I could, you know, show up with. I
Mhm.
hope that's clear. I mean, I can go into more detail, but that was kind of how I found my specializations.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
And who knows why I've been drawn to the belly, and, like, you know, it's all about the hips and the power of moving our hips. I it's just a calling, you know, and our breath and all of these things. I didn't know about a term dance therapy. I didn't know, and I just knew what my spirit told me I wanted to do, you
Right.
know, and I
Right.
knew what it was for me, dance. And I, you know, and I had dealt with so many issues manifesting in my body, in my center as well. And then I kept finding people, you know, they just would come, I'd find them, you know.
Yeah, it's man, thank you for sharing all that. And there's so much from that that like one of the things that stuck out was just even just hearing about how, before hearing about panic attacks or these terms that we hear quite normally, well, it's still getting more normalized, but it's just it's amazing for me to hear that wow, like back then there weren't words for it. You just kind of knew that something was off, and then and so just like a moment of like at least it makes me see like we have grown a lot. I feel like as a species, even though we still have more to go, but it's nice to see our growth where we are now, at least with more and more people talking about this, knowing what it is. Um, and then also, I feel like you touched upon the fact that so much of all this trauma is related to not being heard and just wanting that outlet. So I'm thankful, very thankful you brought up those things because it is true. A lot of it is just people just want to be heard and listened to.
Hmm. Yeah, it's just huge. I mean, it's just huge. And we're waking up to that more and more, you know. And it's also, you know, in that way of how we relate to each other, it also supports how we relate to ourselves, that we learn to listen to and value our own inner sense and our own inner voice. You know, we have to learn to listen to ourselves and then have that dialogue with ourselves in our deeper wisdom, with our souls, with our higher selves, with our hearts, and also developing. It's all a development though. It's not like just like, oh, you know, I mean, this is intrinsic to us, but we have to relearn it on some
Mm-hmm,
level.
mm-hmm.
And it, depending on where you come in the scope of human expression, if you were supported in that or not, maybe in your culture you were, maybe you weren't, in your family you were, you weren't, you know, but it's a continual development, and tapping into the wisdom and intelligence of our bodies as well, and kind of being able to, you know, block out the noise, the outer noise, even of well intention, you know, people, you know, we've got a lot of things going on these days, to a lot of noise. I mean, there are great things about how we're all communicating, but also we have to learn to filter. And I really, you know, I'm talking about also that connection with the divine, you know, with the force of love, with the, you know, the way that we relate to that, and with, you know, our with the earth, with the moon, you
Mm-hmm.
know, with the sea, with these forces, with the sky, with the sun, you know, and of course, um, that is so held and taught to us, and modeled with Indigenous people. I mean, they've held on to that and had to deal with the pressure for doing that. You know the oppression,
Yeah.
for that, which is our intrinsic nature. Um, and also just to say too, to segue, so that kind of give a little more foundation. Again, this is how I have been taught, and has resonated with me. So it's always, what resonates with you keep, and what doesn't don't.
Right,
Like we
right,
all
right.
just have to, be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But just that, so many of these symptoms, these different symptoms of illness that we manifest, looking at the foundation too, when we've had this fear-based foundation that has allowed all of these dysfunctions to show up and be played out and be just part of our reality on this planet. um, we're coming into healing that. We're being pressed to heal it now. We are losing people are leaving. They're just leaving the planet, the what we're dealing with on so many levels societally, and manifesting in the natural world. It's like all of these things, they're symptoms of our foundation, of shifting our foundation. And that happens through us as well, and it happens through our bodies. It happens,
Mm-hmm.
you know um and so that's, I feel that many people are feeling that, like, ooh, something needs to shift. And we need to shift it out here. Absolutely, we have to shift it in here. We have to get down into that foundation, into the roots, and support that transformation. So, those things that we display, like, why are we traumatizing each other though? Like, yeah, it comes from, a lot of this shows up as trauma, but then again, we have to heal it. But like, why are we even doing it? Like,
Right,
where's that
right.
coming from, and why are we passing it on, and why,
Mm-hmm.
like, so there's so many different levels to break that down, and that it can be overwhelming. At the same time, it's great news,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
because our nature is love. That's where we come from, but it's the transformation.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And having to face that, because there's so much that has been of the shadow as well, so that we can clear it and
Mm-hmm.
heal it,
Mm-hmm.
and face it with love though.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's the only way.
And learning how to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're in a learning process.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, yes. I recently learned of this song by a DJ. His name is Yuksek, and I forget the title, but in there he has a woman talking, and she's saying how life is love and love is life. And that's it. It's true. As much as we want to run away from it, we see that it doesn't work.
I
We
have,
have,
I have, I have, ooh, I have,
I've
yeah.
done it too in my past, and we just got to run to love, because that is when solutions actually come forward. And it isn't the easier approach, but it definitely is the
No,
approach
it's,
that brings long lasting change for the better.
yes, yes, because love can kick our ass when we need it, like, I mean, maybe not literally, but, I mean, with love, love will kick our ass with love, I mean, but yeah, it's, those are my kindred spirits, the people who are, who are working to find that, to embody it, to share it, who are
Mm-hmm.
seeking it, who are even, like, in all kinds of ways, like something's not right. What is it? Oh, wow, that sounds interesting. Wow,
Mm-hmm.
what's that?
Mm-hmm.
To people who've been doing it for a long time. It's like the spectrum, we're all moving along,
Mm-hmm.
bridging and supporting each other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. Which kind of ties in perfectly to my next question about talking about community. So, our community feature, tell us, how has community played a role for you in your own healing and your own story? And then why do you feel that passion now, right? To be of service for community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, community means so much. Community has been a huge part of my healing. And I've been a traveler, I, grew up in Kansas City, Missouri, Midwest, then went out to DC for school, for university, and transferred out to Tucson, Arizona. And then I was out there for, 12, 13 years. And then out back in the East Coast for like 20 years, Miami and Southern Maine primarily. And then now in California for the first time, landing just before the pandemic. So I've had community in all of these places, you
Mhm.
know. um, and oh, wow, I love community. I love community. What I love about community, when I love community so much, is when we're all working on ourselves
Mhm.
and how we connect to each other clearly,
Yeah.
working in that process. Sometimes it's messy, I mean, it's like a learning process. But I love the coming together of people sharing their gifts and talents and supporting each other and bridging, and kind of showing each other the way through their weaknesses. If we have blind spots, or if somebody else can emulate something that's their strength that is our weakness, so we learn, or sharing skills, all of that. Very grassroots. I just love. So that has shown up, I mean, in countless ways, through spiritual healing, through environmental work, doing permaculture stuff. I
Mm.
started studying permaculture like in the 90s. Again, the vampire's been around forever. In Tucson, that was amazing. Working just with social change, and coming together in community and hearing each other's stories and listening to each other and loving each other, and you know backing each other up, and it's just a beautiful thing. So I kind of experienced it in different ways in different places. I have to say my family is a part of my community as well. I have been so supportive. We um, in my mental health recovery as well.
Mhm.
And I hope I'm answering this question clearly, because there are a
Um,
lot of different pods. I mean, I can recognize, yeah, community in all these different places, like growing up, being into the arts and being in a diverse group of friends, and we just explored so much. And being in Tucson, the spiritual healing, the social healing, the earth healing, being in uh, Portland, Maine. When I was in Maine, there's strong community there. It's a very vibrant, progressive city, and becoming more and more diverse all the time. Very rich, very interesting, and very cohesive. Very well, working on things that aren't cohesive too, for sure. We must recognize that, but
mhm.
also that resilience of that intense climate. And then Miami, there's just an amazing women's health and birthing, natural birthing community, so into just social justice and natural healing, and it's just amazing. So I've kind of worked in these different places. Now I'm in California and I'm finding community because I'm living in my little computer a lot of the time, like all of us. And so I was ready to hit the ground running coming to Southern California, like, wow, yeah, I get to be in California in the West again. And so the pandemic has been, it is what it is for all of us. And I'm
Right.
very, very being very careful. I really respect the request to not be out and about if you're not an essential worker, as much. I'd go into nature, and I'm very, just cognizant. And so, yeah, but I'm meeting people. And, so it's funny how just Las Vegas has been one of those places that just kind of like something in my heart. Like there's something going on in Las Vegas. And then like meeting people who are doing things in Las Vegas,
Mhm.
it's very cool, and I've tuned into a couple of your programs, and
Mhm.
just really enjoyed what I saw, and the heartfeltness and the kindness and creativity and just what's happening, and it was just just warms my heart. And so I'm just, yeah, so putting those feelers out for community, and I'm meeting people also in California, in in the LA area, in San Diego area, in my area, which is um, South Orange County. There's some really interesting people doing beautiful things. And just finding ways to connect. And I look forward to finding more ways, collaborations and,
Mhm.
different things. We have so much to play with, you know.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. Mhm. I love that you brought that up, and it kind of segues very well to what I was gonna ask you about how now, like, right, like with this online world that we're finding ourselves in, how it if we try to adapt with it, we see like, wow, there's actually so much opportunity. And like you said, um, play. There's a lot of opportunity for play and for connecting with folks that maybe we wouldn't have connected with otherwise. And I can honestly say that without the pandemic, I mean, maybe we would have gotten to putting more energy to the podcast, but thanks to it, we have, and thanks to it, now we're connecting with you. So it's really cool, and it makes me excited to see what can happen in the future, what other connections we can all make. Um, so yeah, if you can talk a little bit about that, like just the how this online sphere, if we look at it as a opportunity right now, what can come from it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, it is amazing how it just kind of opens the door to different communities and different things that are going on. And I started with Zoom back in like 2013 or so, doing just one-to-one work. Um, but kind of had that vision, well, definitely had the vision of wanting to work internationally and such. But you have the twists and turns and things evolve. And here we are now. I mean, it's like, well, first of all, the podcast world is amazing. We have incredible, all these platforms on social media, which give us these opportunities to connect, which, again, you can look up something and find a musician that's kind of, in an area that's doing things that you're interested in. That's incredible. Um, but, I think with the podcast world, that just started intuitively coming to me like in the last few months, like, oh yeah, because I was feeling like I don't want to just have really short conversations on social media, like,
Mhm, mhm,
and so that opened up. So, I think it's amazing what you're doing, and like the fact that your podcast is expanding like this, that you've done that. So even in that, like, we have with this kind of technology, we can be doing workshops, and we can be doing performance. People are doing I'm looking for people to collaborate with that way, as a dancer. And
mhm,
we have these ways of, there's learning how to do the technology piece. That's been, the challenge. But having classes, virtually online as well. I was really focused on trying to do, my classes locally out in nature,
mhm,
because I really want to encourage people to be in nature in whatever way, for those healing, that communion and the healing. But that kind of being shut down right now, that I'm kind of accepting, is
mhm.
like, well, wait a minute. So let's just keep this virtual, and but then all of a sudden it's like local community, and then it expands out, you know, and that's been happening. I mean, this summer I was teaching, and I was doing a lot through Eventbrite, and in the room, here we've got, a woman from Mexico City, a woman from Ireland, a woman from Italy,
That's so
and
cool.
everybody in lockdown,
Mhm,
dealing with lockdown, but we're dancing together, we're breathing together, we're doing guided, you know, exercise, all the different ways that I'm working with people, and how beautiful, and so we have these formats to do this. And being able to, again, figure out the technology of it, I think Zoom, hats off to Zoom. I still get frustrated when I get kicked out of a meeting, stuff like that, or the things that happen. But Zoom is certainly allowing, they're really working to keep us going, and I know
Yes.
we have other platforms like Google Meet.
Mhm,
And I mean, we can do the social media lives as well, the YouTube, the Facebook, the Instagram,
mhm.
those things. For now, that we may not, you know, I mean, yeah, and those can be full meetings. Obviously, people are doing meetings. People are doing there's like performances, full performances happening. Jacob's Pillow has put together some incredible like showcases. I haven't gotten there yet, but I really am on my way. So I shouldn't say that. I got to do it first before.
Yeah.
But but yeah. So I think just kind of embracing that, and seeing what you're doing as well. You were using Twitch to do community event and share that. That's another platform that opens up. So I feel like we can just keep getting as creative as possible with this and finding ways that we can come together as if we were traveling across the country, or whatever, driving across to go meet in a studio or go meet in a center.
Yeah.
My dream is to be able to get we'll see what happens, but technology where I can like really be teaching whole classes just out in nature, like not just recording them, but like live teaching them, to encourage somebody else. Okay, be on your balcony doing this, or be in your yard, or find a spot. And that still allows for the social distancing in these
Yeah.
times, that we're
Yeah.
dealing with.
Yeah, wonderful. And what's coming to my mind is I know you mentioned that you did some environmental work, and as I've shared with you, I previously a lot of the work that I did was environmental sustainability focused,
Beautiful.
and then now ever since a few years ago, just kind of bridging the gap of how personal healing is related to um hopeful improvement of the state of our planet, the environment that we're in, that we live in. So could you talk a little bit about that, and just like the work that you've done, and then also just the correlation of that, of individual healing connecting to Earth's healing?
Sure. Well, so in terms of the activist work, that was kind of more, in another community that I was in. I guess I'll start with the foundation that I'm seeing. That connection is, first of all, healing comes through relationship. You've got to have a relationship with something to care about it, or you've got to have a connection, right? We've been very disconnected from really kind of feeling the earth and being in our bodies, and recognizing that um, we we are we're just like the earth is a physical manifestation. We're physical manifestations as well, and there's no real there's really not a separation between
Mm-hmm,
us
mm-hmm,
and the earth. I mean, we are her children. I mean, we're fed, we're clothed, we're nourished, we're our thirst is quenched. Everything comes from that in our physical manifest, in supporting
mm-hmm,
that, our sacred vessel. And so that communication, it's not just like a mental, like, oh, I care about the earth. I mean, that's a relationship. She's alive and she has messages for us, and she has, I mean this is not new news. This has been said for a long
mm-hmm,
time. And so having that relationship is like, let's listen to what she's telling us, because she's can guide us and support us. I mean, that's how we get all this information and how to heal. We're, the medicines, all of this, that's, I mean, it starts from her, and spirit, the communication, the connection. And so I think understanding, well, what are we fighting for? It's a, what are we fighting for? Like, to be in that relationship with what you're actually supporting.
mm-hmm,
and and I can say, like, so being, I started doing like nuclear disarmament work when I was like 13, like that's way back in the 80s too, and was, really concerned about what we were doing. And then kind of into my teens and 20s, working with indigenous groups and religious freedom, and land rights, sacred land rights, and dealing with these multinational corporations. And you just look at that, and it goes into the impact of multinational corporations that's starting to really show itself more and more in the 90s as well, with, you know um, the border factories and all the pollution, and then we've got, the agribusiness that started further in the 50s, all these things. So working with our food systems and cleaning up our food systems, all of these things, that's a relationship. That's a relationship with the land. That's a relationship with humans, other humans. That's a relationship that is affecting the bodies of humans. It's affecting all of our bodies as humans. It's affecting the earth. It's all it's all connected, you know. And so our health is in being healthy. The health of our planet is in the planet being healthy, and our health is in our bodies being healthy and the planet. There's no separation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, really, like,
Yeah.
I'm just have to say, we really think the solution is just to leave the planet and go to Mars? Really? Like, we're, we we have to stop trashing this planet,
Mm.
trashing our own bodies. It's a lack of love.
Yep.
It's a
Yep.
lack of connection.
Yep. Yep.
And then she'll teach us also how to find that mother within, mother ourselves. That's a nurturing, self-nurturing as
Mm-hmm.
well, and
Mm-hmm.
nurturing each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up too, because I'm all for exploration, scientific advancement, all that. But I think when we like personal belief is that if we are, obsessed with like leaving Earth, it's just kind of we're just falling in that same pattern of like external validation or looking for everything outside of us when we already have it within. And if anything, then that means it's just like when folks that I might have done it, and I've had friends that have done it where maybe they're like, I'm going to move somewhere else, thinking that that's going to like solve their problems, right? And I think of
I've
it in the
I've
same
done it.
yeah,
I've done it.
right?
I've done it.
Yeah. And thinking of it like as a species, if we think about, okay, well, we're gonna move to another planet, we're just gonna take our problems with us, and do it there too. So it's like it's time to I really believe, with love that I, I just think that it's time for us to grow up, as a species. Like, come on, guys. Like, let's face our stuff. Let's stop doing this over and over again. And we have the support and the wisdom to get through it and to grow from it.
We so do. We so do. And that's, I agree completely. That was a message that was, you know, I a spiritual teacher had told me, she said, love is just saying we got to grow up. We've got to grow up. And this was, a while back, and it really is. It's like, kind of, okay, yes, we're inquisitive, we're brilliant, we're amazing. There's so much to learn. It's fascinating. The universe is fascinating. And I'm, again, also not like, oh, don't go explore, whatever. I'm not an expert on space at all.
Yeah.
But it's more like, well, kind of like, let's get still here. Let's get
Mhm.
still, because if we think that's a solution, we're so sadly deluded. It's like, why didn't we needed to get still when we were being told the Colorado River, draining the Colorado River is going to be a problem, you know? And here we are, like, in the West. It's like, that was a long time ago that was being said, pay attention, get
Mhm.
still, pay attention.
Mhm.
And um, we are given so much grace. The powers that be have given us so much grace. I'm amazed. I've been given so much grace, so much grace,
Me
you
too.
know, you know. Um, so yeah, if we can, yeah, I agree. Just
Mhm.
really take stock of what we actually have and really care for it. Care, take care, take
Yes.
care. You
Yes.
know.
Yeah. Yes, and there's this. I heard this quote from Alan Watts the other day. I'm going to paraphrase it, but pretty much just about that we've been so preoccupied as humans, so preoccupied in our minds that we've been trashing the planet, and it's evident. I mean, if we think about it, if we look back from since the Industrial Revolution, just this it's been what a great advancement, right? But it seemed we've kind of just lost our way. Like we've just become very obsessed with gain, and look what we've done, right?
Yes.
But again, I really I had this moment, when the pandemic started, and I went and relocated to my friend's farm. And that initial week was really imperative for me because I left really afraid, as so many of us were. And I just remember just I all I knew I had was like I had to get to nature. I was like I need to get to nature and
Yeah.
just like mellow out. And I'm not kidding you, like my first day there, and I just felt this serenity, and I just
Mm.
felt calm, and I just knew like I was like everything's gonna be okay. And I just felt like that was Earth's message to me. It was when I arrived there, it was like, everything's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
We just have to, like you said, get still and just think of solutions. How do we create better habits? Because that's what it comes down to. Is I don't believe that humanity isn't the problem. A lot of folks say, oh, humanity is the virus. I don't believe that. I believe is our habits have been the issue. If we can just change our habits and like love ourselves and just do better, things will get better. We just have to just get disciplined and do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And be in that relationship, be in that connection. And yeah, because that awareness, it's a huge piece. And yeah, I really hear what you're saying. I feel it, like it's a foundation shift.
Hmm.
But hey, that's okay, and we need it.
Yeah.
And I really have seen like how much, I mean, I know for me, because I been alone in this, primarily alone in this pandemic, moved across the country and left everything, and just being with the earth and the powers that be has just been my tremendous comfort continually. And I just have seen people, like, it's like, yeah, she's just like, come on children, come on, like, come on, because we kind of need to come on.
Yeah.
you know it's like, but just that healing that she's
Hmm.
provided. And people, the ways that people have slowed down in some ways, and I know now things have gotten a lot of like back to craziness in a lot of ways, um but there have been these beautiful shifts, and it has been, where we see it, that kind of softening into bringing forth the divine feminine more, her that influence. And that's the healing for, there's the divine masculine too, but so they heal, that supports the masculine to heal, because it's like, oh, chill out a little bit, you don't have to always be conquering everything, just like,
Hmm.
get some balance, let's all get some balance here.
Yeah.
Let's get into our bodies, because that's also moving into the divine feminine, being present
Hmm.
and feeling.
Yes, yes. Yeah, and I think this ties well with just, talking about these times, right? These turbulent times. What have you done, or what's kept you going, right? To continue moving forward, to continue to helping, what's helped you pretty much during these
Yeah.
times?
So it's been an interesting thing. Again, I relocated and just before the pandemic hit. So, and like so many of us, I mean, just deeper levels of trauma surface too, not only in a huge upheaval of a move and such, but the upheaval of everything, and just kind of having to continue to do my own inner work, a lot of inner work, a lot of clearing, a lot of healing and recognizing. And, because I've been also, again, kind of bringing things full circle in what I do, kind of integrating and bringing kind of my story together and my skills. And like, I came out here, it was like, we're moving into a whole new phase, but we're bringing it all full circle, right? So it's been a lot of that, a lot of inner work. And again, dancing, a lot of my dance practice is a big part of my spiritual practice and my communion with the divine, my communion with the natural world, with the earth. So I that's just kind of, that's just part of my makeup, that's a
Hmm.
necessary. So I really support others to find that, who are drawn to it. um, and so I kind of have a whole self-care world that is very strong in my practice, that I've cultivated over many years,
Hmm. Hmm.
because I was trained, and also it's that combination of training and then having to keep strengthening these things, because I've gone through the falls.
Hmm.
So it's kind of that level. Another piece is really connecting with others, connecting with people that you feel connected to, that you can have really, real conversations with. And you can also support them. We have to support each other. That's very healing, to show up for each other, really paying attention to these. We've gone through so many upheavals and uh, you know twists and turns, but I just showing up in the way that I have known how to, as I'm going through all these things, getting clear about how I'm going into this new stage and such. But showing up in social media in ways too, sending those messages of taking stands against racism, and taking stands against this brutality that's been there but showing its face, taking a stand for love, taking a
Yes.
stand for justice and for human lovingness, all of it, all of to heal our separations and our how we've been separated from love, and enacted that out with each other. And so in that way, um and then plugging into community, and being kind,
Mm-hmm.
being
Yes.
kind and present. Sometimes in all of this, we can think, oh, it may be just dramatic things that we have to, but you know what? Let's be kind.
Mm-hmm.
Let's breathe. Let's stay grounded. Let's ground ourselves too, because that helps with the collective. So I do
Mm-hmm.
a lot of my internal work and work with the land is also about connecting and contributing to the greater energy, the greater
Mm-hmm.
vibration that's going on. So, we kind of become anchors,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like satellites,
Yes.
for healing energy and for being conduits for information
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and sharing that information.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I've kind of been in a lot of preparation as well, and sometimes it's been like, I really want to get out there and be doing these things, but it's like, well, I'm not exactly sure yet. I have to I got to get clear here. I got to do this work, this kind of inner and behind the scenes work,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
and I think and so like plugging into the podcast world is also part of that outward movement in this new phase that's happening. And so seeing all this community that's happening in this way is beautiful, beautiful,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
really just fantastic,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
So, I feel like there are just different levels that we're to work on this. But honestly, like really, I just support people. I mean, people are talking about it more than ever. I think grounding, it's like, yeah, we've talked about this, some of us, for a long time, because it's been part of our survival strategy. But I think so many, not just survival, but for thriving, trauma is ungrounding. It takes you out of your body, you know? But we've been operating out of our bodies, like you said, in the head.
Yeah.
Like we need all of it, but we need to, be integrated. And so the trauma keeps everything on high speed, nonstop, disconnected.
Yep. You
You know,
just, yeah,
no
just
no
whatever it is.
reflection, no
Exactly.
reflection.
Yep. Just keep going and not, yeah. Yeah. And it's just so interesting. Like I had a friend yesterday, he was like, yeah, and last year when we got grounded, I'm like, yeah, we really did. We've gotten grounded. And we needed that. We really needed that. We still need it. We're still in that same type of energy too, of staying grounded, and I think a lot of good will come from it. And I think the more
Yeah.
and also, and I understand, it's hard, and I still see some resistance for it. But I think there's a reason. There's a higher reason that maybe we don't even fully understand yet, on why we kind of need to just stay put for a little bit.
Yeah. I think there's a lot that we don't know yet.
Yeah.
There's a lot, but you kind of, some things we know and others we just have to pay attention to what's in front of us,
Mhm.
and just the power of that, because there's a lot of, in that healing process too, stuff has to come up, that purification, so much has to come up, and there's going to be triggers, and there's going to be reactivity and stuff that is just, like the skill to learn how to process that and hold yourself, and monitor your energy and, you know, be self-responsible. And there's just so much. And sometimes stuff just has to come out. It just has to come out, and it's just going to regurgitate like a volcano. And that's just part of the process in certain ways too. It just, and so also the more that we can learn to ground, we can hold ground in the face of that. We can be that loving presence. We can be that for each other. We can be that even for ourselves, which is a really interesting duality, you know. You know what I'm saying? Like when
Yeah.
we are have our triggers. So the earth is, you know, as she's, these things are also happening. We ground, you know, we ground.
Yeah. And you know what's coming up for me, and it ties in well with my next question for you is, you know, as we're talking about grounding and all these things that maybe there's folks out there don't really know what that is or how to do that. And then of course, you know, during this time, um, there's so much sickness, you know, a lot of people that did get the virus and maybe, you know, now they're feeling the aftershocks of it, or perhaps they've gotten affected by COVID more so the mental aspects of COVID, you know, where the social impacts that it's had. So what advice, you know, could you offer to folks that maybe they're new to this? Maybe they're
Mm-hmm.
new to like to focus on healing and all that. What could you what's some
Yeah.
good piece of advice you could offer?
Absolutely. Well, you know, it's really important. You know I'm like saying all these things and but like also it's really important to just keep it really simple, you
Mhm.
know, and just, you know, really working with these basic truths, whether you're ready, you know, you fully believe them yet or not. You know, sometimes we feel it and sometimes we don't. But to remind yourself, because, you know, and I'm here to remind you, and then also consider reminding yourself, you know, if this resonates with you, that, you know, to just remember that you really are loved. You're really loved. You're celebrated by the divine. If you may not have another human in your personal life reflecting that back to you right now, you are loved unconditionally. You are absolutely a gift. You are a treasure, and you so are not alone, really. All around you is love. You are made of love, and just the best you can to become it still into the present moment the best way you can, whether that's just taking a nice slow breath and looking at the trees outside your window, you know, focus on a color, you know, just recognize that color, focus on your senses, you know, coming into your body, because sometimes that doesn't feel safe. You focus on a smell, focus on a sound, and just remember each one of those is there to remind you that you are loved, that you are not alone, that you're going to get through this. And in that place, to just allow yourself to feel that whatever the support is under your body, you know, we talk about that with guided meditation. You know, if you're sitting, feel the chair or whatever the surface is underneath you, feel it supporting your body. If you're standing, feel the ground beneath your feet. You know, just focus into feeling that connection, and then envision from that place sending those cords of like roots from the base of your spine, from the bottom of your feet, send them down into the center of the earth. Send them right down into her. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just she's here. She's holding you as well, right? She's right here underneath you, loving you all the time. Just send it down and ask for help. Just ask for support. We have to, you know, we have to ask for help too. We can't, you
Mhm.
know, just isolate ourselves and then just get stuck in that nothing will matter, you know, because I've been there. And it's so important to ask for support. If it's just through your prayer, you know, um, to anybody that you feel like you trust, you know, just to say, if you need to just talk to somebody, you know, keep it real simple, just simple tools like that. If we're really breaking it down,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you know, kind of paying attention to your breath and just trying to kind of give yourself nice slow breath, just kind of slow things down the best you can, even if it's just for a moment. You take like a minute, give yourself a minute, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because that, what happens in our minds, what's happening in society, it's not gonna, this, you know, think that the wheels will continue to turn. We have to take a stand
Mm-hmm.
to slow it down.
Yes.
And that starts to, moment by moment, you know, there have been times in my process where all I could do was, I could only do that, hold it for a little short while, you know, and then I'd come back to it again to get fed, to feed myself, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're just kind of putting yourself down nonstop or feeling so bad, take a break, just take a break from that, take a break from putting yourself down, just come over here, rest in this love, rest in your breath just for a moment, and then we build from there,
Mm-hmm.
bit by bit. So just keeping it real basic like that.
Mm-hmm.
We, you know, then we can build our tools and our skills. You know, get your face in the sunshine for a minute if that's what you have. You know, just let the tears come. Let the tears come.
Yep.
They need to.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
just kind of be with yourself in that way. So, and it's amazing the power of when we're in those places, you know, I'm speaking of those places, just having, if somebody's there, or if you're that person, literally just being there, just being love, just being that presence, no judgment, just compassion,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
you know, because these energies, they feed us, they nourish us, and they heal. They're great for our immune systems. They soothe our nervous system, which is connected into our immune system and our digestion, the way we digest our emotions and process. Helps us to open up to see maybe, that, maybe I see a little possibility there, you know, kind of opens a window in the mind and the heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was really beautiful, Morgan. Thank you for doing that, for offering this solid advice and just beautiful reminders. And I and
Reminders.
we chatted about it briefly before hopping on, but just taking a moment to honoring that loving energy, right? That without it, I know I wouldn't be alive. And so yeah, just taking that moment to just honor that energy, you know, whatever you want to call it. If you want to call it God, higher power, you know, if you like, I like to connect a lot with earth, you know, whatever it is, just
Yeah, whatever it
yeah.
is, you know, they all love us. They all love
Yeah.
us, really. It's
Yeah.
like you have your pick. You know, you can even make up a name. It doesn't matter. Just like as long as, you know, it's something that you believe in, you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
that is of love, that is love, you know.
Yeah. Even praying to love itself.
Hey,
Yeah.
love just itself,
Mhm.
absolutely,
Mhm.
100%, you know,
Yes.
because, yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely, you know, because love will give us some really powerful protection,
Mhm.
really powerful protection.
Yes. Hmm. So beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Morgan. How can people connect with you? What is your website? What are your socials? Anything you'd like to share?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so my website, excuse me, I have an interesting spelled name. I guess it's on the screen, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Morgandanae.com. That's my website, real straightforward. And I am, so at this time, well, I'll say where you can find me on Instagram. Let's focus on Morgyn Danae Wellness.
Okay.
Morgyn Danae Wellness. I'm bringing in my another page integrated with that. So I'll just keep it simple. Morgyn Danae
Awesome.
Wellness. And Facebook, Morgyn Danae Wellness. And that's also going to be going through some changes, but you should be able to find me there at least, to connect.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also on LinkedIn, Morgyn Danae. And yeah, those are the ways.
Awesome. And then for folks listening, it's Morgyn, Morgyn, and then Danae, Danae. And then we'll also have
Oh yeah,
that,
listening, right.
but we'll also have it on the the show details, and then we'll connect it also on our Instagram. So
Awesome.
for easy access. But awesome, Morgan. Anything else you'd like to close with before we end here?
Well, first of all, thank you very much, Monica, for having me here. It's been really great. And thank you for, doing the work that you're doing with the Love Yourself Foundation. Really wonderful. Um, yeah, I just believe that we, can sum it up here. Absolutely the power of self-love and love in community, those foundational pieces, and the power of sharing that in a global way as well,
Mm-hmm.
and being rooted in our connection with the divine, with the earth, and with the elements, the divine beings, the divine elements, source, and the natural world. That, this is all full of love. It's our work to protect it and to heal it
Mm-hmm.
and to
Mm-hmm.
celebrate, in that as well.
Yes. Awesome. Beautifully said. Well, thank you, Morgan. This has truly been a pleasure, and it was just
Same
great
here.
to connect and um, talk. I loved everything that came up and that we got
Sure.
to talk about. So,
Yeah. Thank you.
uh,
Thank you.
awesome. Well,
Yeah.
thank you everybody for listening, and please leave us a review and let us know how you're liking the podcast so we can keep growing. So. Thank you, everybody. Until next time.